I'm Vince Maple, I'm leader of the Labour Group on Medway Council, and it's great to be here today celebrating the NHS's 70th birthday, something that was created by the Labour government and something which Labour members and activists for the last 7 decades have been really proud about. It's one of the reasons so many people are members of our party. And we're here in 2018 and we need to think about the challenges here in Medway and across the country for our health service. Whether that's mental health getting the provision it truly needs. We know that people are waiting far too long for services. Whether it's our hospital, loved by so many throughout our community, there for our most difficult times, whether it's people being born or people at the end of their life. And whether it's our GP, people love their GP, love the fact that they have that service available to them, free at the point of need. But we know that there are pressures there, people now having to almost feel like they're phoning up for concert tickets when trying to book an appointment. So those are the challenges the health service here in Medway faces and across the country. We've seen for the last 8 years a starving of resources. We know that if people truly want a health service that works for the many, that it needs to have support from Labour members, Labour activists, the community at large and a Labour government, because it's only a Labour government that will truly stand up for the National Health Service. So happy birthday, 70 years young, and here's to the next 70 and beyond. But the NHS will only be there because there are people left with the faith to fight for it. And I know members here in Medway and across the country will continue to fight for their National Health Service.
Happy birthday, National Health Service. I'm really proud to be celebrating the 70th anniversary of the NHS, an audacious Labour idea that was made in the hardest of times and has been looking after all of us since that happened. Today, the NHS is saving lives. Today, the NHS makes modern miracles. But the Tory government don't want the NHS to do those things the very best way they can. They've been starving it of funding. They've been making it really hard for the decent, hard-working people who serve us in the NHS to do the job that they want to do. So, on your birthday, NHS, here's a message from me. Labour will always fight to protect the NHS. We will make sure that it's properly funded. And in the next 70 years, I hope to be here again, listening to the modern miracles that the NHS has made.
Our NHS is 70 years old, and it's incredible to think that it's actually been around for such a short period of time, really. My own father was born the year before the NHS started, and that's an incredible thing to think about. The idea of requiring the services of a doctor or a midwife without having the certainty that you will have a health service that is free at the point of use. But that's actually the reality within living memory in this country. So we mustn't take it for granted, because it's very clear that it's not something that you can take for granted in other countries. It's a service that we always hope that we won't ever have to use, but when we do have recourse to use it, we almost universally find dedicated staff who go above and beyond the call of duty for levels of pay that most of us would find not just intolerable, but actually impossible to live on. Important to challenge all the bad things that are being done to our NHS by this Conservative government and by Jeremy Hunt. It's also important that we take this opportunity to celebrate the good things as well. And for me, on a personal level, those good things include the care that my wife received when, and my son received when he was born at 29 weeks. And it was absolutely fantastic, first-class care at Medway Maritime Hospital. It's the sort of care that no one could afford if they had to pay for it themselves. It's not the sort of care that any insurance would be guaranteed to cover, and that's why we must absolutely steer clear of the sort of insurance-based model that is part of a lobby in the Conservative Party who want us to move towards that model. We've got to reject it. We have to reject the creeping privatisation of the NHS, because that's the sort of care that an accountant isn't going to agree to. But as a community, and that's what we did in 1948, it's what the Labour government did post-war, in dire circumstances, decided that this was something that we thought was worthwhile as a community. And we fund it together as taxpayers. It's a bargain. It's something that we absolutely should cherish and that's why I'll be celebrating the NHS's 70th birthday.
And I worked there for about 30 years, retired in just after 2010. Medway Hospital was the old Naval Hospital, as we all know, and it is the lifeline of the community of the Medway towns. A lot of criticism has been made of the hospital. Basically, it's too small for the big growing population, and many discussion has taken place about building a new hospital. Anybody who visits the hospital know the cramped conditions, and if it wasn't for the commitment of the staff on the front line all the way through, from top consultant to the housekeeper, the porters, ground maintenance, this hospital of ours would not be what it is today. You get fantastic treatment. Obviously there are hiccups. My personal experience with the hospital was through my husband's journey, and saved his life, and his follow-up care has been amazing. I have got nothing but praise for this hospital. They need the support of all the residents. Authority, government, keep putting in all the new houses, developments and that hospital cannot cope with the numbers. So fight for your hospital. Make sure that we as a Labour Party treasure what we built and what we started by Bevan all those 70 years ago. And if you lose it, you will miss it.
When my daughter was 12, she was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. This came as a real shock to us as a family and to her, but the care she received from Medway Maritime Hospital was second to none. All the doctors, the nurses, all the staff there really looked after us and looked after her, and have made a real difference to us as a family and to her and her life. It's meant that she's not been held back by that diagnosis. She's been able to get on with her life. She's at university, she's been able to work and study abroad, and all of that is because of the NHS. And of course, throughout that process, we never had to worry about how much it was going to cost us. That's why the NHS is precious to us all and why we need to look after it.
70 years of the NHS, founded by the Labour Party for everybody, abused by the Conservatives, neglected by the Conservatives, too many pen pushers, fabulous doctors, fabulous nurses, healthcare assistants, cleaners, cooks, and personally, from my family's point of view, my parents used the NHS, my grandparents used the NHS, and this year the doctors in the NHS, specifically my surgery in Medway Hospital, saved my life. The NHS is a Labour, was founded by Labour, will be protected by Labour, and we should care passionately about it and protect it to the utmost of all of our abilities.
The NHS is 70 years old this year, which is a modern miracle in itself. I was born a year before the NHS came into fruition, but I can honestly say that through my lifetime I have experienced lots and lots of help from the NHS. Not only me, but my family have as well. There are lots of things that happen in the NHS that are really, really good for people. The way that they help people, the doctors and the nurses that are fully trained to help people, and babies born now will have a much better, greater chance of living longer because they have been born into the NHS. It is something that we should be extremely proud of in this country, because where we led, others followed. So happy birthday NHS, and I hope that in another 70 years you will be able to celebrate 140 years of the NHS and carry on forever.